lovely Kerfuffle Podcast people. Hope you are well and good and all safe at this time. Hope you're provisioned up and have all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer you could ever wish for.
That is a
David,
blessing.
are you well?
I am very well. Thank you for asking. I have all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer a man could dream of.
Excellent. Okay. What we're doing on the show today, apart from our normal bumbling and amusing review of the news?
Well, on the podcast today, we have a guest. Mr. Glyn Trott is joining us from agentOS. That's what they're called this week.
Good.
They were previously Let MC. They are now agentOS. And Glyn's just released an interest. Sorry?
Very Bond-like. Everyone's going Bond. You've got Moneypenny. Actually, I suppose it's only Moneypenny, isn't it? Oh, no, Spectre. You got Spectre as well. agentOS. Maybe Kerfuffle doesn't really fit in with that sort of image.
Well, it does. It does, because in The Man in the Golden Gun, and The Man with the Golden Gun, Mr. Scaramanga had 3 nipples, and you famously have got 3 nipples.
A superfluous third nipple, that's right. I'm not sure if it is a nipple or just a blemish.
You've very often been described as a superfluous third nipple.
Very good. Well, I suppose one thing we should talk about just before we go into anything serious and our normal review of what's going on is the explosion of the app called House Party. Now, I don't think anyone watching this is going to be unaware of it, because it started off almost virus-like in the way that a couple of alerts happened on your phone, and then by the course of the end of the weekend, the entire universe seemed to be on it. And some people in particular, I think, David, you will know what I'm talking about, have taken this a little bit too seriously, haven't they? House parties going on for 36 hours.
Listen, I don't know anybody that can party for 36 hours.
Wow, they're impressive. Anyway, so yes, that seems to be the thing. That seems to be like, whereas Zoom obviously happens in the day, House Party is the evil sister that takes over at night, isn't it?
And you have to, again, it's like people are being invited around for the Friday night drinks, and I think Kevin Ellis hosted some, didn't he, on Zoom? Did you go?
Yeah, no, like the absolute fuckwit I am, I turned up fashionably late, and of course there was nobody there, or they did what normally happens, is they pretend that everyone's already gone away and the secret knock didn't get me in. So no, I did miss it. It did look absolutely fantastic, and I think our girls over at Kerfuffle, Yannicki and Emily, have been talking about having quite sophisticated coffee morning style things. So I think there's a lot of that stuff going on at the moment, and to be encouraged.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think people should be encouraged to stay in contact. There's a lot of video conferencing going on, obviously, and I think you need to brush up on your video conference etiquette.
Why?
That hair is clearly
Fuck you, Jerry Lyons. Look at that. Look at the bounce in that. I mean, I'm doing something with my hair that I don't want to go too much too soon. But I've got Amazon
clippers.
Slippers.
Clippers. You know.
Oh no, I've already got them. No, I'm not sure. I haven't decided on that yet. But I am bored senseless, as you might know. So I am going to do something.
Well, if you can shave the Kerfuffle logo into the back of your head, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Can I update you of a couple of like news stories that caught my actually more social media? You know, obviously you tend to do the news stories that have more than 300 words in them, but I like my sort of 280 characters.
You know what? I have made my way through the weekend's news, and there's nothing in there worth reading out.
Really?
Obviously, yeah, the whole country's in turmoil, and we've got this massive overarching health crisis. We're all in lockdown, and you know the rest. There was this very interesting article in the Times all about your property questions answered, but it's you've got the usual kind of got Mark Hayward, Chief Executive at NAA Property Mark, saying that estate agents Government guidance does not list estate agents as an essential business, and so all agents must temporarily close their offices until told otherwise and work from home. They are still seeking clarity from the government as to what this means for those who have exchanged and have a move planned in the following weeks. Clearly, this can be where it can be postponed. It should be, but there are many situations in which a move is absolutely essential, and in those circumstances, we need to understand what buyers and sellers should do.
Right.
And there's a lot. So there's a lot of conflicting information floating about, particularly around whether even you can get removal firms in, practicalities, and whether solicitors will allow you to exchange and complete. Something has amused you.
I've
caught that.
It absolutely has. Right, okay, I'm going to deal with this now because genuinely all I was doing there was the Homer Simpson. Have you got chocolate on the end of your nose?
Oh, it's coffee. Oh,
I didn't know how to say it.
Luckily, I have these tissues here, which I keep next to my workstation.
Yeah, don't you change the point. Just for everyone, it was chocolate, wasn't it? Or coffee.
I keep this moisturizer and tissues next to my workstation.
Yeah, well,
I like to reward myself every now and again.
Very good. I didn't want this to be known as the episode where David had shit on his nose the entire time. Anyway, after that bout of physical comedy, which we didn't see at Agents Giving,
you will never hear rimming mentioned on the EA podcast. That's for sure.
It doesn't get enough, does it? Really?
No, not mainstream enough. We made it mainstream.
Anyway, well, look, where the mainstream press, the mainstream media have failed. Twitter, as ever, has not failed to deliver. So there's a lad on there called James Felton. I don't know if I mentioned him before. He's at Jim M. Felton. And he was just contrasting the difference of countries, how they've dealt with the lockdown. He talks here, Italy in lockdown. Tenor serenades apartment block singing Rigoletto Parmi Verde Lagrimi from his balcony. Germany in lockdown. Citizens sing Bella Ciao from rooftops in solidarity with Italy. UK, the first night the pub shut, we've got wanking trending. Again, I thought that was lovely.
That tells you something about the Dunkirk spirit.
It really does. It shows that up and atom spirit it's a little different now, isn't it? I think we've morphed as a country to something. Not saying it's wrong, but the one that really caught my eyes. Did you hear the story about Putin? How he's I think you were arguing actually with my dad, which was a bit weird the other day, fighting for my
yes.
You were talking about the experience. You can't trust the Russian figures, which of course I agree with, and it's another reason why Dad's wrong on many levels. Not least 46 years ago when he decided to have me. But the big one was, did you see Putin's address to the people? It was literally about 30 seconds long, and it was, if you don't stay inside, you can stay inside for 15 days, you're facing 5 years in jail. That was basically it. There's no, and you can imagine that. I can't imagine you getting many warnings in Russia, can you?
No, I don't think he's the kind of man that asks twice, is he?
No, but somebody is living up to his image out there. So again, it broke through on Sky just yesterday, got a lot of attention, and it was coronavirus. So I shouldn't always laugh when I say that. Belarus president refuses to cancel anything, and says vodka and saunas will ward off the virus.
Oh, well, there's a hero for the modern generation.
So right. Belarus, I can't imagine that their sort of views on things like, equal rights and shit like that and everything are particularly good.
Haven't got a great track record, put it that way.
Ah, right, okay. Well, you can educate me later about all the.
I was trying to educate your dad, who seems to, believe that we should not be holding modern day Germany accountable for the sins of
the father. Yeah.
Which, you know.
Which one I go with, to be honest. You know, I mean, that might be a first, me agreeing with my dad, but I do think.
So let me get this right. In 1939,
yeah,
the Nazis landed from Planet Nazi. In 1945, they just went back to wherever they came from, right?
No. But they're
Like
sorry.
that.
The point is, those aren't the same people. Not unless those experiments they did genuinely gave them everlasting life. The whole point is that their sons and daughters should not carry the weight of their parents' ills. Now, where I want to bring that back to today's life is in exactly the same way that the gobshites in this country did not fight the Second World War, and they cannot take all the fucking plaudits that their brave grandfathers did by storming, you know, Dunkirk and everything else there. It is the same thing from a different perspective.
You see that, Overman? That's called a political segue. Can't do it, can you? You can't do it.
She's there. We've got everything. Right.
I want to dive straight back into some agency news that have also been on social media. So this is about Spicehaart. Now, I've invited people to come on the show to talk about it, but
this is a shitstorm, isn't it? This is really
So I've got two separate postings which I'm going to read out.
Well, David, first, can you just give a brief overview of why this is happening? It's because obviously the other day, quite prominent fashion, there was a number of job, as there are many places, but it was the way that it was done, wasn't it? At Spice?
I think 300 jobs were cut from 1 minute to the next, and I think this was actually pre-furlough as well. They dived straight in and they said, look, we're going to make these redundancies, we're going to need to make these cuts. But I think the way that it was done was by text message. Now really everybody knows that the gentleman does not break up with a lady over text.
No, right? STD, you tell them they've got an STD by text, but not
you can do that, can you? Okay, well, so this is the Spicehaart story. So there's two separate postings here. One's they're both clearly angry, but one is slightly more sophisticated than t'other. So this is one posting that happened on the 23rd of March. When are we going to find out about what's going on? When will we get that call to explain about our pay? The government have offered to pay 80% of our wages, so why are we still sitting here wondering what to do with our lives? We got sacked with no further questions and were told to leave the building immediately. We were made to work all day on Friday and said we'd be working from home by the end of the day, but instead we were called into a conference room and to all be sacked at once. When I joined this business, I was told it was like a second family, and I've always lived by that families stick together through the hard times. So how is it that so many of us were made redundant without any explanation? If you come across this post, please share it, blah, blah, blah. So obviously we are doing. Now, there was another one, which was actually a kind of an open letter to Paul Smith of Spicehaart himself. To Mr. Paul Smith, it is with deep sadness that I send you this message, but there's been no other way to reach you. I was always proud to work for you, and on occasions, if you remember, I sent you a few private emails telling you so, to which you responded. I am upset that you thought I was not worthy enough to keep my post, which is how I feel, because if you had asked, I would have taken unpaid leave, so I had a job to come back to, but I wasn't given the respect. All I got was a text at 7:30 on Friday evening to tell me that my contract had ended. I'm a single dad of two, and at the moment, because my wife, who you know well, has COPD, this has been isolated, I can't have them, and I can't explain to them when dad will be able to hold it together for them and feed them after paying this month's bills. I hope you get through whatever it is you're going through, and I wish you all the best for your future. So obviously a very kind of bitter, sweet message there. There's a modicum of respect.
You can understand that as well, can't you? It does sound... okay, let me try and play devil's advocate. I suppose it is hard for these large businesses when these decisions need to happen at the same time to do it in a touchy-feely sense. But I think we know that way of doing it is wrong, isn't it? I've seen...
Yeah, I think so.
I've seen it as just to say, I've seen it in other examples where, for example, franchising groups have acquired other franchising groups, and they've had to let all of those franchisees know at the same time. So realistically, only a mechanism like this, an email being delivered or a text message at the same time, allows fairness, because otherwise you will be hearing it from somebody else secondhand, which of course is the even worst way of doing it. But I think
it's the contrast, though, isn't it? It's a conflict of a sort of a large corporate entity. If you look at the corporate agencies, some of them were excellent at investing in the right sort of training for the staff and the correct kind of materials that they needed. They were constantly investing in their personnel, and they seemed to, from that perspective, from the shiny front end was very nice and shiny. It is the dirty back end here that we're seeing, where when they need to shut something down, it's done without any more goodbyes, hellos, nothing.
No.
You are the industry's dirty back end. Yeah. Well, I believe you had some news. I think you wanted to mention we need to send some well wishes, don't we, to Roz?
Oh God, yeah, Roz Renshaw. So it was obviously on the news. I just dropped her an email over the weekend actually, and her husband just jumped on and just mentioned that unfortunately she'd had a really tough, a really bad fall and was in hospital actually having an operation. So for those few people that don't know, Roz Renshaw is the editor, previously negotiator, and now of Property Industry Eye. It's overused, but she's an absolute legend in the industry. Her stories will keep people going for weeks and months on end if you can get her at a dinner table to talk about them. And yeah, just really wishing her, hope, like many people, will wish her well, because I think she does she really is a journo in the old school title of it. I have to always make sure I say this is off record, isn't it, when we're with her. But we do wish her well and hope she's back on her feet in short time as well. Because I can't imagine that's particularly nice, having to go to hospital in the middle of all this as well, which is
No, I guess it's not great at all. Simon, looking at a story from the Property Industry Eye, did you ever have any dealings with a Craig Anthony Cook?
So I did wonder whether that was Roz's, as she was going to hospital, whether she put that story out just as a kind of screw you. But
as the ambulance arrived, she said, "Look, the code to the safe is 20, 64, and 69. In there are all the dirty stories on Craig Anthony Cook. Get them out."
Yeah, look, it's well known. Cream Club are a business that's exploded onto the scene a few years ago and have been around in a number of different iterations, not least Cream 2. And I can't remember what the name of the new one is. Is it on that link, David?
Well, I think the limited company they were trading from was called Cabec Limited.
Cabec's been the old one.
Trading as Cream Club still.
Yeah. There's a new one around at the moment which will update people on, and look, basically they did videoettes, they did a lot of really exceptional marketing stuff, but the service levels, and I've got to be very careful here because they were very, very litigious. Mr. Cook himself was less than to be desired, and I'll do all that sort of stuff.
I think they're called the Property Collection Partnership. Yeah.
So that's what they are at the moment. And trading with, and all I can say is there have been very mixed experiences with people dealing with them, and I, like many agents, was like a moth to the light with it. The stuff is, a lot of it ostensibly was really, really attractive and well priced, but I think you have to be careful with if ever there's a time too good to be true, it was on this one. I mean, obviously everyone goes into it, and other people have experiences. But this was one where the experiences were pretty consistent, and I think you only have to see the number of changeovers of obviously business name and everything else there that shows that this is not a particularly stable company, is it?
I believe they've now been banned from being directors, and that was the.
Did it say why? I didn't actually. Funny enough, I only had a chance to see the headline before jumping into it. Was there a reason for it?
I shall bring that story up presently. Here we go. Following its entry into liquidation in the previous May, concerns about the industry supplier Quebec Limited had been raised with the Insolvency Service, and at the time, this goes back to 2015. Insolvency Service told Property Industry Eye that concerns had been raised. Although we cannot prejudge the outcome of liquidators' investigation, they'll be paying close attention to their findings and will take action if the evidence merits. So I think the Insolvency Service has now confirmed that Craig Anthony Cook and Claire Roberta Cook have been banned from holding company directorships for 8 and 5 years respectively. And I think it mentions here that Mr. Cook failed to ensure that Quebec Limited made full and timely payments to its employees, which resulted in Quebec failing to comply with national minimum wage.
There was famously a website put up by its employees, which he obviously slated and said was an attack job on him, but with staff simply saying we haven't been paid and how a complete expose. I think you can find it on sort of things like the Wayback Machine, which logs a lot of the history of the web, even if it's deleted. It was taken down again from an injunction, as I said, incredibly litigious there. I think one of the things this shows, though, David, sorry, just for a minute, is it really shows that is the system not working there. First of all, you've got the legals there. This is from 2015-16, and it's taken till this time to happen. That's absolutely ridiculous, and there needs to be a much quicker processing of, if not saying this is one, but if there is a rogue business out there, that needs to be dealt with. And that was one of the reasons that people asked when I was talking about doing Kerfuffle. Yes, people want to see the best businesses that are out there. They want to understand that, but they need to understand those as well, that they should just steer away from. Yeah. And so I know for me, I could never understand why social media never dealt with this. You'd imagine, as it does, if BT drop a bollock, somebody's on the site, on Twitter straight.
I think unofficially it did, and I think that litigious behaviour that you referred to earlier was enough to kind of damp it down initially. And there were many aspects of the Cream Club which were quite attractive to agents at a time, which predated video marketing, and it was at a time where YouTube was really quite a new thing. Yeah. And they used to sort of offer you like property channels and so on. It was very, at its time, it looked great. And the one thing that always got the door open for them, and I thought this was quite interesting, is that they'd send you a card initially to say, look, they're interested in coming to see you and to talk to you. Inside that card would be a lottery ticket, which they'd bought for you. Which should have told me everything I needed to know at the time.
Yeah. It's a shame it wasn't one of those ones, you have to scratch off, and you can just imagine he's already scratched it off just to see. I mean, it's a everybody knows the name in the industry, and I think that tells you a lot, and it's not for the right reasons there. So, I mean, well, at least it is being dealt with, I suppose, in the way that it's meant to be done.
Rightio. Where is our guest?
I've told him. He's coming on in a minute. So we've given the overview of obviously the fact that they sound like Bond villains. But as we speak, a completely mythical picture of Glyn Trott has just popped up on the screen, which no one is going to believe. Let's see the real Glyn. Hey,
there we go. How are you? How are you both?
We're really good. Let's see those wrinkles. That's it. Bit of grey. That's it. Not your Photoshop picture.
Glyn, are you in a sauna?
Oh, this is my little little office.
That's a lot of pinewood, my friend.
What? Beautiful. Got the Xbox, and then the sauna's actually next door, and I kid you not.
Nice. Okay. Well, you can walk us through
with Mr. Glyn Trott.
I hope that's not in the office, because that's just, you're getting into Google territory there if that's the case.
That would be nice, just coming out in a little wraparound towel.
Kimono.
And give me 5 minutes before the next meeting.
So Glyn,
are you doing well, my friend, anyway, as well as can be expected?
What was that?
I said, are you doing well? Are you all right?
Yeah, no, it's grand. So, yeah, just kind of sort of set some of these plans in motion a little bit earlier on. I had a couple of corporate contracts that needed things to happen quite quickly. So yeah, just settled down. How about yourselves?
I know what you're like as a person. You've always got 1,000,001 different plans. So I can imagine for someone like you, you're wasting no time at getting all these projects finished off, aren't you?
It's a great time, isn't it, at the moment? Because actually just so much capacity and time. And I was laughing and joking with my head of IT. I haven't worked so hard in the last 2 weeks for a long time.
I agree. No, genuinely, that's the case. 150 calls a day, how many webinars and stuff like that. It's incredible what you can do when you have to work, isn't it? But Glyn, we were just talking earlier, obviously as one of the mainstays of the CRM world, you have reacted really, really quickly to try and give some actual useful hints and tips to your agency clients and indeed the industry in general as to how to make it through there. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's just like any business. I was going through the same journey as soon as this was happening. Really trying to wrap my head around, okay, what do I need to do? And it wasn't just the practical stuff. It was, you're talking to accountants, you're looking at the news, you're chatting with your staff. And as I was going through this, we were just building the list. And at the same time then, just seeing a lot of the sort of social media chat of some of our clients and other agents for what they're doing. And it just made sense that so much information out there, let's just get it into a resource, an ebook. And we just literally 2 weeks, team, myself sat down and said, right, let's chuck it all in, see what we think's sensible, get rid of some stuff, and just try and get out the door really, really quickly, because it's that time for collaboration.
So this isn't just let MC, if you like, functionality and stuff. This is just general tips as well to help get through this.
Let MC, agent,
whoever they are. Yeah, sorry.
I'm glad we broached that early. agentOS,
yes.
All one word, all lowercase.
agentOS.
agentOS.
Yeah, no, it's really the practical stuff. So I stuck my former agent head on and started going, right, if I was in my agency now facing this, what would I do, and what would I do very, very quickly? And an interesting one, I've had a lot of feedback from some agents are like, don't like the sound of that. Other agents said, brilliant. It was just like deposits. Go to your tenants and say, should we go to 0 deposits? That means you can get the cash, you pay my rent, I get some of my fees, I can pay my landlord, and we've eased the pressure on both sides. Really just a simple discussion.
Yeah.
And you sent this out to your clients, but you said that, okay, a couple of people there, but on the whole, the feedback's been really good.
Yeah. It's lots of people are coming back and just saying, really like it, some good points. I think it's just a lot to digest as well. There's so much going on in businesses, isn't it? You just, so much happening. You can look at all those insights and think, where do I start? But for me, I just say pick one, get it done. If
you were to pick one, which would be the one that you would lead with, that you'd probably get the most benefit from at this time?
I think there's some real fast ones that you'll do. Probably definitely sort of check in with your customer base. And easier said than done, because everyone's getting a little bit caught up with prospecting, and it's not prospecting. It's like, look, we're just calling, we're just checking in, everything okay. There's a really good agency in Cardiff, CPS, and I've quoted them a few times in the book. And the reason is they're renting some of my properties in Cardiff. So I'm on their mailing list, and the stuff they're sending through, I'm like, this is really good. They turn around, they go, here's 2 key people in the business. They're on hand to give you advice to get your properties ready to sell when we come out on the other side. Stuff like that. The other biggie for me is we've got this time. You've got your teams in the offices, really just looking at, I call it locked equity. I got this from Romans. They did this very cleverly, where they go and do a valuation for a landlord every 3 months, 6 months, and basically say, this is how much locked equity you've got in the property. If you cashed in, if you refinance, you could improve the property. If you cash in, you got deposits after your tax to go and buy 2 more. Really clever. And I remember in my own agency, I did that for about 6-8 months, and it's a slog. It's not easy. And when you're busy, it falls to the wayside. Now we've got time, it's worth doing. And all you're doing is go to Land Reg, roughly work out, not even Land Reg, you go to Zoopla, you go,
Yeah.
When was it? It was bought on this day. Assume 70% loan to value. It's worth this. They're sat on this much money. That to me now is that what I'd be doing now as an agent. I'd be stockpiling. I'd literally every person I know, active client, non-active client, working that out.
Yeah.
And just stockpile it up, and then starting those conversations and say, when we come out the other side, there's gonna be a lot of divorces, a lot of people wanting to upgrade, a lot of house splits. It's going to be pent up. I hope it will just go fast. Because 12 weeks with your family and your wife, I'll be ready to move out.
Yeah, we had Nighty on Friday, and I know you sat on a couple of the webinars last week, and he was making the point, which I think is totally on the ball, which is this is about deferred income, isn't it? Do the work now, but you're just deferring the income further forwards, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And it is the time to do it as well, isn't it? It's absolutely the time to do it.
I think you're right about the prospecting. It's a very fine line between, appearing sort of avaricious and, do you want to sell now, and actually just turning it just slightly into, is everything okay? Can we, just staying in touch on that basis?
I think that conversation needs to be led from that. I'm just checking in just to see how you guys are doing, and then allowing them to turn the conversation to property, which inevitably it's going to. I think that at the moment, all of us feel there was a whole sort of debate on some of the forums last night, and I think John Paul was actually involved in some of it, as to whether or not now is the time to even launch new instructions to the market. So, we took the view that I've got one now, which I think I'm going to have to launch today. They need to sell it because they are realising equity that's locked up there to pay for care home fees for their mother. So that is an everyday scenario that we come across, and that doesn't go on hold simply because of the coronavirus. We're completely hampered in terms of being able to affect viewings normally and to get to that process, but people need to get on with it. But there's a lot of agents out there that are withholding those instructions, that they're thinking it's too early, that we need to get at least sort of a couple of weeks of lockdown out of the way until people become used to the new normal, if you like, which is an interesting reality.
And I wouldn't underestimate the whole DIY aspect. It took my wife less than 12 hours to suddenly start getting a list out and thinking about what she wanted to do in the house. So you people are all stuck in our homes, and actually it's a really good sort of icebreaker coming into contact and potential sellers to say, look, here are some of the stories of what others are doing to get the house ready, and it's actually the time to do it now. Let's get this listing all geared to go, and then when it's ready, and even putting it on the market now, people are going to really sit down. We call it the property porn, just looking around, and it starts to build that interest.
Has anyone seen? I haven't seen it. I'm sure they must be out there soon, although they're probably keeping their press releases down to a minimum. Has anyone like Rightmove been putting out what the amounts of traffic is at the moment?
Not officially yet. I've not seen that release, but they did send out an email last week, I think, just gently suggesting that views are likely to go through the roof in the same way that they do over Christmas.
Boxing Day, yeah.
And as we speak, I am actually logging into my Rightmove Plus to see what our stats look like over the last week. So you guys chat away, and I will update you in a couple of seconds.
While he's doing that, again, you missed the earlier where David had a magical big bit of coffee stuck on his nose, which was a good
okay.
coffee.
And you kept that quiet for a little while.
I sat here grinning and ignoring everything else he was saying for a good 15 minutes. But, I'm not going to keep going over it or make this a regular occurrence now. So, no. Just while we're doing it, though, Glyn, where can people access this? Can they go to the agentOS website and pick this up? Or can we provide a link back to it somewhere where they can download it?
Provide the link back, so it's there. You don't need to give an email. It's not about selling at all. So you just go to the main agentOS.com website. It's literally on the front. Click it, you download it.
So you don't have to even give an email. Normally people do this, don't they? Let's be honest, as information gathering, database building. So you really are doing this as just giving something back and putting it out there. Or
Yeah,
you've got some really good tracking software.
not at all. Leads forensics to tracking software, no chance. Too expensive. But also, what I've done in there is I've put it's my work email address. It's an actual email address to people to share. If they email me what they're doing, what they're discovering, what's working, we'll add it to the update. So in 2 weeks' time, we're just going to update it. Some stuff in there is not being received very well. We'll get rid of it and get the new stuff in. But I'm also trying to just add a couple little stories. So if agents have actually done stuff, giving them credit, just putting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To add those real world stories.
Gentlemen, I've got some stats for you. And this is interesting. And I think that this would indicate to me that the public haven't got through enough of lockdown to really start looking at property porn yet. So if you were to look at February stats for our patch, if you like, the average view was 84.8. In the first 2 weeks of March, that dropped slightly to 81.6. So I think that's probably just normal. And for the last 2 weeks of March to present date, it's dropped to 45.1. Wow. It tells you that in actual fact, at the moment, the reason why Rightmove are not releasing those figures is because
they haven't got a story to tell.
Well, I don't think they have anything to tell, and which tells me that people are very much still tied up with looking after their families, adjusting to life at home, and we've not normalised this yet.
Yeah.
What are they doing that for?
It's because the kids are on the laptops or the internet and they can't get any.
Yeah. Glyn, can I ask you a question? Just we've been trying to, we represent both sides, obviously, of the force here. We have David on this side. I don't know where on your screen he is, but we have David there as obviously, well, we'll call it the light side with the estate agents. Over here on the dark side, I'm representing you, the dark side, Darth Whaley. A lot of, there's been, I think it's been good actually, but it's taken probably a little bit more time. A lot more sympathy now from agents. That obviously a lot of suppliers are in exactly the same boat. They aren't right moves, with cash piles to sit on or anything else like this. How are you coping there? How are your staff taking it? Are most of them able to work from home? Can you tell us how, just on that side, how you're dealing with it as a business?
Yeah, well, we implemented pandemic planning, believe it or not, 10th of Feb. So our corporate clients were getting a little bit nervous. After I came back from Italy, going...
You, patient.
Did you give it to Peter Knight?
Sorry?
Did you give it to Peter Knight? He reckons he also picked it up on a skiing trip.
I was nowhere near him. I was in Rome for the rugby. So I literally came back as they were starting to lock down northern Italy. But no, the team were quite adapt pretty quick anyway. So we have a lot of our guys work from home anyway. Yeah. So the hardest part actually was just at the end there when you suddenly, I said to everyone in the company, look, if you're nervous, anxious, you want to work from home, do. I continued to go into the office last week until it was a done deal, and a couple others did. So it was nothing really major. What's really interesting now is we're talking more as a management team with each other and more social and more connected than ever before. And we were talking about it this morning in our Monday meeting. Just like, Jez, classic sales director on the road, working from home for the last 10 years. And he's like, I've spoken to more people in this last week than I've ever done.
Yeah,
are you on House Party? No,
we use Google Hangouts. We use a lot of the Google stuff, and I think there's an interesting development with Zoom. A lot of people, I think Zoom, obviously they charge you if you go over 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're enforcing it. So when we talk to people, they're like, well, I'm using it, for hours and not getting kicked off. But sort of, if you flip the side now, most companies are probably being really productive now because the managers are not holding court for 1.5 hour meetings. They're restricted to 40 minutes and they're just trying to get through it as quickly as possible.
Just on that side note, it's interesting, Zoom's shares about in a time where the stock market's obviously crashing, you've got Zoom shares have more than doubled over the past month.
They created the virus. Let's be honest. It's like again back to our Bond baddie theme. It's like them and people who create face masks and hand sanitizer all in this together. Just on that subject though, Glyn, actually, it's quite interesting. We've spoken about this kind of ad hoc over a pint, but now, and this bizarre thing about how this little nation of ours still demands that, when we buy stuff, we do it face to face. And I do, even, you'll be asked by a one-office agent down in Penzance, oh, no, I've got to see the whites of your eyes. I think this, what we come out with the other side is, that's just bullshit these days, isn't it? But if you can do a face-to-face business, obviously, yeah, there's an extra level of value, but it shouldn't be necessary, should it?
No, I think that face-to-face will still be there. People like that social aspect, but I think what's changed is this is very comfortable now. It's becoming very comfortable very quickly. I had a call with another supplier, never met them before. Yeah. Within half an hour, we've had life stories. We've developing rapport, and really interesting. Sort of what we were talking about this morning is, trying to work out what's it going to look like on the other side, and really, are we going to have that branch, the showroom on the ground floor, and then lots of offices at the back or above? Yeah. And the reason a lot of agents did it, and I did it in my agency, is it's not so much the trust; is I just want all the people there. Yeah. This changes it. It really changes it. You really want to be paying for that extra bit of retail space, office space above or in the back. Yeah, you have, that way, keeping that little outlet light. And I remember my own agency, I had 3 branches. 2 of them were just satellites. They were literally just that front of office. Yeah. And I think we'll just see more of that. So for the agents, this is interesting because will customers be happy to have this conversation, build rapport? Because that's why we want to meet. That's why we want that face-to-face to get a real connection. But are we actually getting quite comfortable and used to this? We talk 12 weeks of video calling like this and meeting people for the first time by video call. Yeah. We've got to come out.
You don't know what you said earlier, Glyn, about the what Romans used to do in the quarterly check-in. You can imagine mixing some of those actual visits up with something just as simple as this.
Yeah.
To do it so you are making best use of your time, and then you could rattle through those in a day far more easily, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you don't have to just do one conversation; you do 3 or 4. You talk about these forums, and you rent out. So just starting to have these little hosts, and sort of sharing that news, and actually that whole locked equity. Hey, sorry.
David's a little host.
Glyn, can I ask you, it's obviously well documented that you are a bit of a fitness freak when it comes to CrossFit. How are you coping? There you go.
Nice baps.
How are you coping under confinement?
I knew this was going to happen years ago, so I built a gym.
You've got a bunker.
I got a gym next door with all my kit, and I'm loving it because I'm getting to train.
It's like the Welsh version of Downfall.
His own little bunker.
It is.
Glyn, just on another one. Tough questioning there, David. Well done.
Listen, I'm trying to cover all bases. I've got like this list here. Glyn Trott. Don't mention Let MC. You already done that. Thank you. And the next thing was CrossFit. So
that's it.
I'm out.
I'm going to ask you something about the business, David. You watch how this is done. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of that flexibility you're talking about there, coming out the other side and being able to, it's critical that you've obviously got suppliers like your good selves, which famously are the cloudiest of all of all suppliers. You've recently, though, just released a new bit of function. Well, there's two bits of functionality I just wanted to just briefly, without doing too much of a hard sell on. You've got now almost like a prospecting tool that's gone live, haven't you, with your clients? And secondly, you've got a payment gateway service as well. That's has that actually gone live yet?
Yeah. So Agent Pay is the rent automation. So we're the first guys that started to use open banking in the industry, and that's really starting to get very interesting in terms of automating what you can do in terms of those rent payments and actually even collecting money from people, getting rid of the credit card machines. That side. So we launched that at the beginning of March. Great timing. It's good. Perfect.
Timing couldn't be better because agents will need efficiencies now, won't they?
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of conversations. Even our guys are just having a lot of demos. Jez, they've got 2, 3 today, 2 tomorrow. So it's quite interesting. I was quite surprised in the first couple of weeks. Agents were still now looking very carefully at the business, have a bit of time doing that research. And
two camps, aren't you, Glyn? You're either in two camps. You're either paralysed, and understandably so, because almost everything's going on, or you're in the mood, well, I've got to do something about this myself. I think that's, if you were to limit it like that, that's pretty much. Yeah,
and also you look at it, crisis, world wars, crisis, all those things. Technology leaps. Yeah, it really does leap, and it leaps quite quickly as well. So that's what I'm getting quite intrigued by now. What's happening is how the industry is adopting a lot of prop tech and non-prop tech technologies now, and actually it's the time to start bringing those in and start connecting.
Talking of connectivity, just give us your philosophy, if you like, because I think you guys led the way in being quite open with your information and collaborating with other suppliers to try and integrate everything. So famously, I think agentOS integrates with quite a lot of other suppliers in the ways that other CRM software still seem to be struggling with, or they're trying to release a connectivity bridge that will allow people to get to it. Yet you guys have always seemed to do that.
Yeah, it came. You look at a lot of the really big SaaS companies. Zendesk is one of them, and actually, as a software developer company, you can't code everything. You don't have the resource and time and money. So the quickest way to get that adoption, the growth in your company, is to have that open API. Now, some of the other suppliers do have APIs, but it's within a closed ecosystem. So they're all about, we want to build all this stuff ourselves and keep it internal. And at the end of the day, we focus on one bit of technology, we build those things, but some companies are building some amazing stuff. Yeah. And actually bringing that in, trying to make it seamless as possible, means you become that sort of operating system. And that's why we rebranded. You become that central point that's supporting that. And we were doing open APIs for 4 years now, 4 years ago. But the real challenge is actually other companies having that resource to code to it. Yeah. We're always coding and building your own software, but actually, if you've got a developer who's working on it, we have a full-time API developer. Yeah. Everything he's doing is working with apps developers, doing those connections, working with other prop tech, and working with non-prop tech technologies. From that side. To me, every other industry's done that. Our industry is still that sort of protection, keeping it internal, and it is changing.
It's still quite a paranoid space, isn't it? The prop tech.
Yeah. I mean, even when they do release that platform, it's price. If you charge a lot for it, then you restrict. You just don't encourage development. Yeah. You don't encourage people coding to it because they couldn't afford to.
Well, the worst thing of all would be is if you deliver a technical solution that finally allows the integration, but because of the economics, you actually choose not to integrate all your partners. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? And really depressing.
Yeah. And why do all that work?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why do that work if you can't get people to connect?
And then, sorry, I mean, not that probably there is much prospecting bar that some of the more forward things, but you've got a prospecting tool as well.
Yeah, so Agent Watch is data mining and prospecting platform. So again, very similar to some of the other suppliers out there. We've going out there and been mining the publicly available information. We're up to about 5.5 million records. But what we're focused on slightly differently with that is we're taking that data and we're comparing that to our clients' data in the CRM. Okay. And we're giving you that heads up if you're multi-listing with somebody, if a property that you've got a past relationship is now being advertised with somebody else. Yeah. And we're trying to sort of blend both data sets so give you that heads up, as well as then giving you those classic leads of newly listed price reductions coming to market.
Well, fair play to you. I mean, I think you know, I've always said that somebody who integrates a prospecting data system like that with a CRM is going to just see some massive results. And I think hats off to you that you've taken on it and done it yourself. So it'd be really interesting. Please keep us up to date with any of the success stories there, you and your clients. That'd be good. And to get this, of course, they just need to go to your website, or feel free to drop us a line at podcast@kerfuffle.it. And we'll obviously forward on any queries onto you, Glyn.
Brilliant.
Glyn, thanks very much. Been brilliant having you on board. We'll leave you now to go and do 50 burpees, which means different things to me and David. But you take care.
Thanks, Glyn. Take care.
All right. Thanks a million, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, matey. Thank you. Better not start getting naked before he leaves. It's okay.
What a nice man.
He is. He's such a, you know, it's lovely, isn't it, interviewing the people you actually like. We'll get to the ones we don't like at the end of the week.
Talking about fitness, I think our listeners deserve an update on how your own training's going. I mean,
so I actually went on. I did. What's it called? I always call it a travelator, but I think it's a treadmill, isn't it? And yeah. I've got it out in the man cave, out in the garden, so that all my neighbours can watch me angelically bounce around. And I did an hour and a half, which is 7 miles, which for me is equivalent of 700, obviously there. So I'm doing it.
Did you perspire a lot?
Do you want the shirt? Should we start giving that for one lucky listener, a sweaty shirt? I think we've got enough going on with the pandemic than me start sending my stuff through the Royal Mail.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to find new avenues for merch. That's all.
Right, matey. I think that's a wrap then, isn't it? We've got John Hanford on.
We've also got something very interesting, actually. There is and he is an amazing and very inspirational agent in general. But Christian Byfield has set up something that they are calling Agents Here to Help. And effectively, it's a little bit like a Live Aid thing. He's trying to get agents to and suppliers as well to pitch in and go live on Facebook or Instagram or both, if you can manage it, at set times, so that we're all kind of pumping content out there. And there's enough of us. I think there's 20 agents on board so far, and I think there's almost as many suppliers. So we are getting to the point where we're going to have a press release, I think, by 1 o'clock today. Okay. And Christian will be on the show to talk about it. I'm hoping that will be tomorrow.
Excellent. Well, we will do one tomorrow, because let's face it, we've got fuck all else to do. And now's probably the time, David. I should tell you that I forgot to press the record button.
Fuck off. I'm not doing this again. I can't pretend to like you.
No, don't worry. We're not at home to Mr. Cockup just yet. Right, matey.
All righty.
Take care,
Stay safe, everybody.
See you, mate.